You can get something that's better quality for like $20.
Okay.
Play keyboards and that.
Yeah, Stacey and Kevin are there. I see them at events.
Give you an argument.
Well, it's not a very good argument. Like, that's what I make is pointless.
Okay, now we've gotten to
Yes, we did. Well,
something to talk
what are some other and they needed it. And it felt too big and factory like.
The thing I've done that's gotten
So we
worse.
left there. And then Ella wanted to leave her alone because she didn't have customers. I like it much better. Small, intimate.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to Sunday Assembly. It's so great to have you here. On behalf of Sunday Assembly, my name is Marty West, and I'm going to be your MC today, walking us through our service. We're really glad to have you here. So if you wonder why you're here, there we go. Sunday Assembly is a humanist congregation that celebrates life. A humanist congregation, we're a gathering of people. This is your church without your superstition, so if that sounds good to you, we're the right people for that. Our motto is to live better, help often, and wonder more. Living better is from guided meditations to forest walks. We gather together to enjoy each other's company and focus on our health. Let your hair down and live better with us. Helping often. When it seems like churches are the only place to volunteer, we are here to help. Join as we clean streets, feed the hungry, and much more from a non-religious standpoint. And wondering more, we acknowledge that we don't know everything. We keep our curiosity intact. I think the words, because God said so, aren't really good enough for us here. We like to dig in and acknowledge our curiosity. So that's live better, help often, and wonder more. Recently we had an election for our new leadership team, and this is who they are. It's Joe Wojcinski is our president. Is Joe here in this room? No, he was your greeter at the front door, so you met him. Austin Edwards is our VP and treasurer. He's doing double duty. Victoria Edwards, his wife, is our secretary. Laura Lochi is our communications officer. And John Cleveland Host is our science and wonder officer. And he's actually doing science experiments with the kids over in the main room over there today, so it's kind of cool. Our outreach team is Steve Jacotis in the back there, Anthony Gridlad in the back there, and Justine Turner, right? And as our membership officer. So these are our elected officers for this year.
Thank you.
And yes, and they really do a great job. They put a lot of time and effort into it. We really should be very thankful for them. Our helpers, so far in 2024, and it's early in the year, Marty West, that's me, I'm your greeter. Lori Arts, where's Lori? There's Lori, our book club coordinator. Nick Price, is Nick here? Nick Price is our analyst. Sarah Niskanen, development specialist. Okay, I don't even know, like that's how next level we are. Well, it's pretty good. We'd like to see more names up on the board, so if you'd like to be on a green PowerPoint slide at the next meeting or any meeting after that, like, you know, there's so many things that a growing group needs to do to pull itself together. You know, we were just talking about all kinds of good stuff that we could be developing. Okay, thanks. Here's our program outline for today. So we're going to start with a gathering statement and then a reading. We have a featured speaker today and a little Q&A afterwards. We'll take some time for a little meditation. I think we have a moment of wonder. That should be a nice science experiment or a trick. We have a few announcements, and then we're breaking for lunch. And Anthony has made his world famous brisket, and so we're really lucky about that. And then if you'll please stick around after, as this is your community and your group, it's our group, we're going to have a committee meeting afterwards. And if you are interested in participating or having a say or having something to do with how Sunday Assembly functions, please stick around after lunch. Okay, our gathering statement. We gather this morning to connect with each other, with nature, and with our humanist values. Being here together builds our sense of community and kinship with each other. So let's listen to each other's stories with open hearts and open minds over delicious food as our ancestors and all people who have ever existed have done for millennia. This is our communion together. Let us remember that we have this one beautiful life, and today we're here to celebrate it. Okay, thank you guys for being here. Our address of the president, yes, had something important to address, but we're good. We have lots of open volunteer positions. So if you look at this list and you think that you could be a music director, like that would be so great if we could do some community singing together, some community music. If you have any skills at all, even if you don't have skills that fit these bills, you know, you can set up tables or put food away afterwards. We have so many open positions we'd like to fill. So if you have anything that you'd like to participate with, please stick around after, get your name to one of the guys in the back, and we'll work that out with you. Okay, and now, Steve has come all the way from a foreign country to be here to do this reading with us, so let's give him a welcome.
How's it going, eh? So, the readings for today I'm going to do out of this book called Atheism for Dummies, which is an amazing book. It's written by Dale McGowan. He's written a lot of good stuff. I get a lot of my material from my parenting and interfaith marriage presentation from his work. And there was something in the book here that kind of spoke to me and talks about this very building. So, it kind of goes along with what Janis is going to talk about today. So, it's titled Skipping Yahweh, Humanistic Judaism. So imagine a clergy member informing the congregation that he or she no longer believes in God. That declaration has to be one of the most dramatic human moments imaginable. This person, the one who had led so many of them to the faith or reinforced it, was flagging, who quoted chapter and verse in times of need or loss, who may have even preached against unbelief. This person, of all people, is an atheist. Given the shock, anger, and betrayal many would naturally feel in this situation, you can easily see why the 18th century priest Jean Meslier waited until he was dead. And 20th century minister Dan Barker, I'm sure if you know who that is, sent a letter. But in 1963, Rabbi Sherwin Wine actually walked to the front of his synagogue in Windsor, Ontario, representing, and faced the congregation expecting a typical Saturday service and told them he no longer believed in God, but that he still considered himself a Jew. All the major religions are about more than supernatural beliefs. Certain traditions, rituals, ethics, language, symbols, and ways of living are just as much part of that religious identity. Judaism was always about more than just God, and Wine wanted to keep all the rest. As he stood in front of the murmuring crowd, he obviously knew people would be shocked, but I'm sure he also knew that he couldn't possibly be the only one in the room who felt as he did. So after he announced that he'd be stepping down, he invited anyone else who happened to feel the same to come with him to create, well, whatever would be next. He didn't really know. 8 families came forward to help figure out what was next. They ended up forming a whole new kind of Jewish congregation, a non-theistic one. Right across the river, here in Detroit. The Birmingham Temple. Wine created a new humanistic liturgy that reflected Jewish culture, identity, and history, and taught humanist ethics without reference to God. Like Motown music and the Model T Ford, this brilliant idea didn't stay in Detroit for long. The idea spread first around the United States, and then around the world as Humanistic Judaism. Today, the movement has more than 40,000 members and is recognized as one of the 5 branches of Judaism itself. So I thought I wanted to give you a little bit of a background on what Janis is about to talk about today. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Janis. So I'd like to introduce you to our speaker today, Janis Levin-Gorelick. Janis has been involved with humanism and humanistic Judaism for 47 years. In 1987, she graduated from the first graduating class of the Humanist Institute in New York and became certified as a humanist celebrant. She was in the first class of the International Institute of Secular Humanistic Judaism Leadership Program and became a Madrika, which is a leader specializing in interculture and premarital counseling. In addition, Janis completed 4 years of rabbinic training through the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism with Rabbi Sherwin Wine. She is also a licensed social worker specializing in interfaith and intercultural relationships. But I know Janis from Recovering from Religion, where I was volunteering and she was at the same time. And she told me all this stuff at one point. I said, wow, it's amazing that you grew up and learned your craft here in the temple where we have our Sunday assembly. And I thought, what a perfect guest. So without further ado, Janis, would you please come up?
Well, thank you, Steve, for inviting me here. I haven't been back to this building in quite a while, so it was my old stomping grounds. I'm going to talk today about what brought me to humanism, humanistic Judaism, and how to incorporate meaningful traditions into our lives. In order to do that, I really need to talk about my personal story, because that really is the whole process that other people have gone through at the same time. From the time I was a child, I was curious and fascinated about religion. Other children become fascinated with baseball or golf or Barbie. People would say I was a weird child. My daughter would say has not changed much. So one of the things that happened is I was brought up Reform. But my father and grandfather were skeptics and atheists. My father's father, my grandfather, who was an immigrant, identified fiercely as ethnically Jewish, but he had absolutely no use for organized religion. When my father had his bar mitzvah at 13, he wouldn't even go into the synagogue. He said it was okay because it was important to my grandmother. So as the story goes, he sat on the steps outside of the synagogue because he wouldn't go inside. A year later, he died. That made my father 14 years old. And since he had already had his bar mitzvah, that meant he was an adult as far as religious duties were concerned. So it fell to him to say Kaddish for my grandfather. Kaddish is the Jewish mourner's prayer for the dead. And he was supposed to go every day for a year. And he was doing this because of my grandmother. About halfway through the year, he found a translation of the Kaddish. And he saw that it was praising only God and not had anything to do with the dead person. So he swore at 14 that after he was done with the year, he would never say Kaddish again. Years later, when he died, my brother and I knew that we couldn't say Kaddish at the cemetery for him. And that is also traditional, to say it at the gravesite. But if anybody knew my father, he knew he loved baseball, and he had memorized a well-known poem about it that we all practically knew by heart. So at the gravesite, my brother recited Casey at the Bat. And this was an example of us making the ceremony our own, with something that had meaning and value to my father's memory and to us. Later, I wanted to be, earlier actually, before he died, I wanted to be a rabbi. And women could not be rabbis when I started to think about this. And so when I started college, I started studying all kinds of religions on my own, especially Catholicism, because I thought that that was the beginning of Christianity. I went through the Wayne State era of the 70s. And I did the routine, I talked to the Krishnas, every group there was used to be out there. And this is where I discovered something called the Flat Earth Society. And I found out that their reason at the time for the flat earth is because the Magi came from the four corners of the earth. So how could the earth be round? So this was not working for me. The more I learned, the less I believed. Strangely enough, I needed things to make sense. And the answer that I found from all these groups is that anything that didn't make sense, I needed to accept on faith. Again, this did not work for me. Along about this time in my early 20s, I read Atlas Shrugged. Say what you will about Ayn Rand, I am an atheist because of John Galt. And if you don't know who John Galt is, I can't tell you because there's a rule that you can only find out by reading Atlas Shrugged. Shortly thereafter, I had my first child, a boy. And I figured I had lots of time. His religious education was not on my radar. But when he was 4 years old, well, there were two things that happened that convinced me otherwise. When he was 4 years old, we were at Cedar Point, and there was this terrible downpour. And we ran into this building, which was strangely enough like this little museum. And the museum had this enormous Catholic clock behind a rail. And it had, and I mean it was big, it had saints going in circles and all this other stuff. And in the center was a giant crucifix. Okay, and my letter-obsessed 4-year-old was standing at the rail, and there was a crowd there. And I was about 6 feet behind him. And he turned around and he said, "Hey Mom, who's the guy hanging on the T?" So everybody turned around to look to see who Mom was, and so did I. And then about 6 months later, when I had given birth to my daughter, we decided to have a baby naming, and I went to a local temple, not here, I didn't even know about here. And if any of you have been into a traditional Jewish synagogue, there is an ark that holds the Torahs, and frequently there is a curtain in front of the ark before it opens. Once again, I'm up on stage with my baby and my husband, and my 4-year-old is in the front, my 4-and-a-half-year-old at this time is in the front with my parents. And once again, he yells up to the stage, "Hey Mom, when's the puppet show going to start?" So I thought maybe there was going to be some reason I needed to do this. So I went back to the temple in which I was raised, and I started to go to services. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't believe anything that they were saying again. And I just felt that I couldn't teach my son or my children something that I didn't believe. So I left the temple, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I still figured I had some time to learn about it. About this time, he was starting kindergarten, and I learned that they were trying to teach creationism in the public schools. I can't believe we're still fighting this fight. We call it intelligent design now. So I decided that I had to help try to stop this. And there was a group called the Voice of Reason. And the Voice of Reason was meeting here, and I had never been here. So I come in to do the meeting with the Voice of Reason, and on the table right outside that door were all these brochures. They're on humanism and humanistic Judaism. And I stood there and recognized them. And you could say that was the moment I became born again. We call it the aha moment, but it really was a moment for me. So I learned that you could be Jewish without having to believe in God. And this is not new. Think Spinoza, Freud, Einstein, John Stewart. Theodore Herzl started secular Zionism at the dawn of the 20th century and wanted Israel to be once again the Jewish homeland. And this was opposing the Orthodox, who felt that we had to wait for the Messiah. And he said he's done waiting for the Messiah. When he comes, he'll worry about it then. So what happened was, being Jewish has always been more than just a religion. It has always been part of an ethnic and cultural group. You didn't have to go into a synagogue one day in your life. If you were born a Jew, you were considered a Jew. Jews in other countries, in all other countries, were identified by their ethnicity, not by their religion. They were separated in shtetls, which are little villages, and in ghettos. But they were not allowed to be citizens in the countries in which they lived. I remember one time my father's mother, a very soft-spoken woman, overheard me tell someone that that side of my family was Polish. And she said, no, we were never allowed to call ourselves Poles. You're a Jew. That's the only time I ever heard her raise her voice. So you're probably familiar with the saying, Hitler never asked a Jew how religious they were. You could have converted, but they still considered you a Jew. This changed with Napoleon. Napoleon needed soldiers. And so he decided for the first time ever to make Jews citizens in France. And that was the first time that they could be citizens of the country in which they lived, because he wanted them to fight. But the US brought it to a whole different level, that you could be, for the first time, Americans by national origin and Jewish by religion. This was something altogether different. It was a very proud moment. And that's when Judaism started to split into different segments, into Orthodox, Reform, and Conservative, by levels of observance. Before, it didn't matter. You did whatever it is that you wanted to do. So when I discovered Humanistic Judaism, and that I was able to celebrate my identity as a Jew without the rituals, and I could be Jewish by ethnic attachment and humanistic by philosophy, that I began to distinguish between rituals and tradition. I discovered, like many other Jewish people, that I like the history, culture, philosophy, and matzo ball soup. But the rituals of the religion no longer give me any value to my life. So I joined the Birmingham Temple, and this is where I raised my children. And it was a revelation to me that there was a way to be Jewish without compromising what my children were taught in science on Wednesday. Anything they taught, it all worked together. That's when I entered the first class at the Humanist Institute, when I was already a social worker. And when I was ordained or certified, as they say now, I started doing weddings. And traditional weddings are all about the religion. It's about the rituals. It's about the words that are said, in the order that they're said, and frequently in the language that they're said. And you can take name A out and insert name B, because it's the ritual that's important. In a humanistic ceremony, we're allowed to be different. If we're not doing this to fulfill a commandment or a sacrament, it allows us to be creative. And that's what I learned how to do. I discovered that other humanists were struggling with the same dilemma. I met with a formerly Catholic couple that I was going to marry, because I was doing also from the American Humanist Association. That's where I started, when I was first ordained. So I met with a former Catholic couple, and they were adamant. We don't want any wine, we don't want any candles, we want none of those things that you find in a Catholic ceremony. And I looked at them and I said, you're going to give them wine? They get wine forever? And candles? I said, no, we don't do that. We're going to change the ceremony and make it our own. And we get to use wine and we get to use candles. And one of the traditions in a Catholic ceremony is a unity candle. But that's not religious, that's not ritual. It's totally symbolic, where you have two people merging together as one. So you can have a humanist sentence or paragraph about it that reflects what a unity candle really means. About this time, I went and I learned historical rabbinics with Rabbi Wein. And I started what's called the Madricha program. And Madricha means it's for female. The Madrichot is for male and female. Means leader in Hebrew. At that time, I could have become a humanist rabbi, but I was way too busy with children. And as Steve wanted me to mention, because being a celebrant really doesn't pay the bills, I became the caterer here at the Birmingham Temple. So I really lived in this building. So I wasn't ready to become a rabbi. But one of the things that's really important for all of us here to know is religion has existed as long as it has because it fits and fills the needs of people. Always before, regardless of your beliefs, you had to go back to the church to get married or buried. Or you could go, in this century, to the justice of the peace. However, there are four major rites of passage that everybody on earth celebrates. One common theme: everybody celebrates birth. When they welcome a child into the world, whether it's a baptism, holding a child up to the Great Spirit, whatever you do, every culture celebrates new life. Every culture has puberty rites. Call it a quinceañera, a bar bat mitzvah, a confirmation, whatever you call it. If it happens between the ages of 12 and 15, it's a puberty rite. Every culture has mating ceremonies, and every culture has death ceremonies. The challenge is to be able to celebrate these rites of passage within a humanistic context. What we did with Humanistic Judaism is we followed something we already had. We followed the congregational model with a rabbi so that we had a leader. And you heard it started with Rabbi Wein. The closest thing in Christianity is the Unitarian Church, which is more than 50% humanistic. They allowed about 1850, 1860 to allow questions. This is deadly, because once you allow the first question, the second question emerges. So besides rites of passage, there's holidays. There's things that people celebrate together. And people would come together to do these things. And what do we do if we don't have this kind of group? These are still very human needs. And it also is something that we have to teach our children. We started a Sunday school, which teaches Jewish history and tradition, but more importantly, it teaches children how to think, not what to think. We would put in ethical situations. So we would have things that we would talk to kids about how do you decide what is the right thing to do? What are the things that take that kind of initiative to come up with? And then they also have friends in a common community, which is very important because kids go to church, to youth groups. So you need to replace this with something that gives meaning for the parent and for the child. One of the things that Humanistic Judaism did is change the traditions associated with bar and bat mitzvahs. I don't know if you have ever been to a traditional bar bat mitzvah in a synagogue, but mostly it's a child reciting Hebrew that they've learned how to read the Hebrew, the archaic Hebrew, not conversational Hebrew. They're not even maybe know what it means, but they recite it, And that's what the bar mitzvah is. They say their Torah portion. So what we did here is we changed that. We said that we wanted to give children something that they would remember, and we wanted to make their heroes accessible. And that was very important. In traditional religion, your heroes, if they're biblical, or if they're saints, you're supposed to try to be like them, but you're told right off the bat you can never really be like them. We wanted to make the heroes of our children human, and that they were accessible. So they chose heroes to study for their bar mitzvah. My son did Itzhak Perlman, and Itzhak Perlman invited us to Pine Knob. He met him, we got pictures with him. My daughter did Lillian Genzer, who came here to the temple. She was the one who did the rights of the child for the United Nations. When I was a mitzvah tutor, just for example, one of the children chose Rosa Parks, and she came here for the ceremony. So these are memories that these children always have that has meaning to their lives besides the party, which is why a lot of kids have it, so then they can get the big party afterwards. So some of the things that I learned along the way is that religion is the worship of the dead. And the longer you're dead, the better you are. Just think of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa in life was considered by many, not me, as a saint here on earth. But when she croaked, oh my God, her status increased incredibly. She gained much greater status dead than she ever did alive. And when you're talking about religion, and if you listen to people talk, if it's your religion, then it's mythology. If it's my religion, it's theology. And I challenge anybody to tell me the difference. So when I started counseling, I got lots of questions about how do humanists handle these different situations in their lives. And the one question that is over and over, there was even a book about it, why do bad things happen to good people? And you know the whole story about what they say for religion, that God won't give you more than you can handle, or he's testing you, or this is what doesn't kill you will make you stronger, all the different things, and somehow that suffering is good. I like what my husband always said, if it hurts, you're doing it wrong. So I would tell people, into every life, some shit must fall. Whether we like it or we don't. And I find it much easier to believe it's not any more likely to happen to me than it is to happen to you. Things happen, and things happen to everybody. So what's the solution to this? The solution is to create and recreate anyone's traditions. If we don't believe in one particular theology, then we can co-opt anybody's traditions that we like. And this is not cultural appropriation. All our holidays were recreated. Take Easter, for example. Everybody knows that the Easter egg and the Easter bunny has nothing to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It has a lot to do with the same thing they celebrated Mardi Gras when they put masks on, or Purim, which is a Jewish holiday where they wear masks, because there was a pagan holiday that at that time said that during this time of spring and rebirth, you could have sex. If you put on a mask, you could have sex with anybody for that one particular day. So the church decided that they needed to change this. And you might guess that that was not a tradition people were eager to give up. So they had to come up with something else. And so gradually over time, they made it into Easter, but they kept a lot of the traditions, and we still see Mardi Gras today and Purim today. One of the things that I do, for example, a tradition in Jewish wedding ceremonies is to break a glass. And it's always the man who breaks the glass. I changed that to say, after I explain what it is, and I add, in honor of this tradition and recognition of the equality within your marriage, will you each break a glass? We get to do things like that. And just because something is old doesn't make it good, an old tradition, and a new tradition doesn't make it automatically bad. The reverse is actually true. We create traditions all the time. If it happens for more than 2 generations, people think it's been done like that forever. There never used to be bat mitzvahs. Girls were nothing. They couldn't even come up and hold the Torah or anything like that. But most people don't even remember when girls couldn't have bat mitzvahs. So things change. And what happens is, and you might remember this as a child, it happens to almost every kid. By the time they're 5 years old, if you celebrate Christmas, you know, do you open presents on Christmas Eve? Do you open them on Christmas morning? Whatever it is you do. And then later, when you're 7 or 8, you find out your friend down the block does it differently than you. And you come home and you ask your parents. And somebody says, well, that's their family tradition. This is our family tradition. The solution is to create traditions for us as a community. So, my message to all of you is to continue to create community. Define yourselves instead of what you're not. Define yourselves by what you are, not by what you're not. I believe in the power of people to solve their own problems. I'm really impressed with the Sunday Assembly. I spent some time looking up its history and watching some of the previous programs. And what I want to ask you is, what do you want it to be long term? What is your plan? I know you meet once a month and you plan get-togethers. I know you have some programs for children, but go further. Celebrate holidays together. Create holidays. You have a group here, and you might need to do it more than once a month. Include children. That's really the most important thing, is to have them know that there are holidays that we do together and that are traditional to their group. Do you have any annual holidays that you have created as the Sunday Assembly or as humanists? I mean, pick a day, maybe July 5th, and create this as your holiday. And do it every year and have where everybody comes and has what kind of party that you would like. But these are celebrations that you do together. Celebrate the rites of passage. There must be people who have children here. Have the baby naming during your service. If there's a memorial, have the memorial with the Sunday Assembly. Have your weddings here. And it's not bad to have a leader. I know that a lot of people, when they hear priest, minister, oh my God, they want to throw that out, that model out. The congregational model, just like religion, has existed as long as it has because it works. It has a way of getting people together. And it's helpful to have somebody who has training to be able to go to in times of crisis and has resources. All the reasons that you would choose normally to go to a clergy person apply in this situation too. So I'm very, very glad that I was invited here to speak. And I'm going to end with something we also changed. In Judaism, we say every time what's called the Shema, which is considered the watchword of our faith. And it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." You might imagine that didn't work. So instead we say, "Where is my light? My light is in me. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me and in you. Thank you. So, is this Q&A now?
Yep, Q&A. Anyone have any questions? I have a question. Do you celebrate any holidays with your family?
Any what?
Any holidays with your family, and what is it you celebrate?
Oh yeah, being Jewish has always been celebrating holidays with family, and it's always centered around food. So in my family, even with my more traditional grandparents and everything, we all just got together and ate. There's again a saying, the Jews say, we were persecuted, we suffered, we survived, let's eat. And so really, holidays are celebrated with families and in congregational settings. Like we would have a Seder here for Passover, but we make it a humanistic Seder. Celebrating Passover, for example, is as important today. We celebrate the flight of a people out of slavery into freedom. And that's as important today as it was then. Sure.
What are you doing now as far as your leadership or humanism experiences? Are you working in any?
Yes, I still am a celebrant, and I'm still a social worker, and I specialize in intercultural and interfaith ceremonies. Interfaith is more difficult because these are when two people both believe in their faith traditions, or one does, and how to do that. Intercultural is much easier because those are people who are more like secular or humanistic, and they have different cultures. So I always try to incorporate culture into the wedding ceremonies, or a baby naming, anything that you have. I've done many different ones. I did with an Indian one, and people wore henna, stuff like that. All different kinds of things we incorporate the traditions in. And I also am a volunteer with RFR, which is how I met Steve, Recovery from Religion.
I have another question. So you said that you're involved in interfaith community. I'm wondering, are you affiliated with the interfaith community or the interfaith, what is it called, Joe, that we were trying to reach out to? Interfaith, the council, I think?
The what?
The Interfaith Council in Greater Detroit or Metro Detroit?
No, I haven't gotten involved in that.
Okay.
I would, but life has interfered in many ways that I hadn't planned on.
Not so much a question, but I just want to say thank you, for sharing a brilliant vision of how a good, not spiritual community, but a meaningful community interacts and operates together. We're a fledgling group, and we're just, maybe not fledgling, but we're still trying to figure out what our traditions are, and that was really helpful.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah, and also I'm going to say, we do have our Assembly Committee meeting following the ceremony, as Marty had mentioned. So that's going to be some really good tips that we can use for the input that we're taking from that. So
Definitely, great time.
Okay, well, if anybody needs any answers or help or have more questions, it's my favorite subject.
Any more questions before she moves on? Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, wow, that was really meaningful. Thank you. We have a meditation. We'll just take a few minutes for a meditation, and this is really nice. Janice found a poem for today's meditation. It's by Robert Green Ingersoll, one of the greatest humanists and orators of the 19th century. It encompasses what we've heard today and leads quite well into our next assembly that we'll talk about in upcoming events. So let's just take a few minutes, close your eyes, and allow yourself to feel what each of these sentences means to you. Start by taking a deep breath and letting it out. I was in a yoga class yesterday, and it's all about being conscious of your breathing, steady breathing. Try to keep up your breathing pattern between each of the lines of dialogue and think about each of these. Reason is the only torch. Justice is the only worship. Humanity is the only religion. Love is the only priest. Happiness is the only good. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. The way to be happy is to help make others be happy. Before we open our eyes, let's just take a minute and think about how you could help make someone happy in your daily life, or at work, or at school, at home, here today at Sunday Assembly. You've already made people happy just by being here. Okay, so that is our meditation. I think it would be great if you think about this during the course of the week and leave here today with an intentionality of making yourself happy by making someone else happy. I really love that line, happiness is the only good and the time to be happy is now. It's a decision that you get to make. Okay, before we do our moment of wonder, we also have, is Bev here in the room? Bev is probably putting, okay. So we're gonna do a moment of wonder, and then I think it's a moment of reason, or she has an announcement to make. So Steve, you wanna come up and do our moment of wonder?
Sure.
Okay, I'll come back and put the thing.
I look like Dune.
What's that?
The movie Dune.
Oh, I hope we're not in the movie, dude. Okay, so this is something that has been said before by David C. Smalley. David C. Smalley has a podcast. It used to be called Dogma Debate. Now it's just called the David C. Smalley Podcast, which I think is kind of boring. I like the Dogma Debate thing. That's kind of cool. But I can see where he's coming from. He doesn't want it to be more of a debate or a fight. He just kind of wants it to be conversations. But what he does mention is this little analogy that I thought I would like to demonstrate it in person, kind of like in an experiment, or kind of like, I don't know what a magic trick is kind of the proper term for it, but I kind of want to demonstrate this analogy to kind of give you a visual of what this means to me anyway, okay? So imagine you're in a desert like this. You're on a safari with your family or a group of friends, and there's a big wreck. You smash into a tree, everyone on the ground is unconscious, you don't have water, everything is spilled out of the vehicle, and you wake up and you're disoriented. And you're crawling towards the nearest road along the trail that you came in, and you're looking for somebody. Anybody. All of a sudden, this moped comes speeding along, and sees you struggling. You try and wave your hand, you're very weak. And the person comes over and says, "What happened? What can I do? What can I do to help?" And the person, or you would say, "I need water. I need water." Dude, I don't have any water with me. What I do have in my canteen here, this is a canteen, is cola. So the person person, go ahead, pours the cola into a glass for you. And hands you the glass. It's good.
Brought to you by the Pepsi Corporation.
I told it wasn't true. It's good. Keeps you alive, doesn't it? But what is it that's keeping you alive? Is it the cola?
The water.
So if you could magically reach into the cola, use your imagination, and pull out the syrup. Don't need that. Reach in, pull out all the sugar. Don't need that sugar. What else are we reaching for? Maybe coloring. Coloring is all gone. And what we're left out with is... Whoa.
Wow.
Don't look behind there. It's water.
Yeah.
So, to me, this analogy, the water is the humanism. And all the other stuff that we don't need is the religion. Because this is all we need. This is our community, this is our hope, this is our love, this is our passion, this is everything. Do we need the sugar? Do we need any of the fluffiness or anything like that? I don't think so. And this is what actually is keeping the person alive in the desert. All the other stuff is just extra. So, just gonna drink some more. So that is our moment of wonder today. That is just an analogy that I really liked from just hearing it, and I thought I would try and visualize it for everyone so you can kind of get a picture of what I imagined in my mind when I heard this analogy.
Cool. All right. Okay. Deb, would you like to come up and make your announcement?
Yes, thank you.
I'm speaking on behalf of Doug Marshall, the founder of the Reason Station. Does everyone here know what the Reason Station is? Does everyone know what the Reason Station is?
No.
No.
Yes, no, what?
I don't think anybody knows.
Oh, okay. Well, Doug is a fellow humanist atheist, and he lives in Warren. And Warren had a mayor that thought it was okay to allow a prayer station into the lobby of a government building, which is a direct violation of the Constitution, separation of church and state. So Doug sued Warren and was helped by Freedom from Religion Foundation, was helped by ACLU, etc., and won a huge settlement against them. And I asked Doug to come today because I can't remember this particular part, but I don't know why the prayer station is still there after he won this lawsuit. But anyway, Doug's response to that was, well, this is a bunch of BS. We're going to have a reason station. And he thought really long and hard about what to call it, and he called it the Reason Station. So in the large front lobby of the City Hall in Warren, you have the prayer station over here where they're praying and holding hands and all this. And then over here we have the Reason Station where sometimes we get visitors. I'm a volunteer there, and sometimes we get visitors and they come up and get brochures and talk to us. Sometimes they just kind of glare at us as they walk by, whatever. But there's a national prayer breakfast coming up, and so Doug wanted me to let you know that the first Thursday in May in Warren, there's this possibility that we're going to be needing volunteers to be forming a protest there in relation to the National Day of Prayer in Warren. So he wants me to let you know about that. There will be a possible protest because we're not 100% certain that
the government is going to have the National Day of Prayer. He had asked them, he had responded, he wrote to them and said, you know, is this going to be being held? And they've chosen not to respond to him. So right now, that's why it's a possible protest. But he would like me to speak to let you know that we will be needing protesters should the National Day of Prayer come to fruition. But we just haven't been able to verify that yet. Does anyone have any questions? The first Thursday is all I know. I don't know what the date is in May. Yes,
Deb, are you on the Sunday Assembly social page on Facebook?
I don't even know what it is. I don't think I've ever
So I was just wondering if we could get an update of that on our...
Sure. I would just go on
interactive
Facebook and
page.
look up Sunday Assembly and then I can post. Is what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, or you can send it to one of us and we'll make sure we get it up there.
Yeah, that'd be a great place, because if it's gonna happen, that's how we can get a general message out.
Okay, so yeah, let me tell Doug that I'll do that. So I'm going to need his feedback if this protest is going to happen, so I can.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, you can send the details just to Joe at sundayassemblydetroit.org and then he'll get it up there if there's something we can do.
I'm sorry, Steve, what?
You can just send it to Joe at sundayassembly.org, sundayassemblydetroit.org, and he can get it up on the social page if you'd like.
That'll work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a couple of upcoming events. Before I get to upcoming events, I've been trying to collect people's birthdays so we can know whose birthday month it is. So far, I know that it is Lonnie's birthday in March 1st. We're already celebrating, the things. We learned something today. Anybody else have a March birthday? That's it. Okay. Well, happy birthday. So our two upcoming events. Our book club is meeting on March 17th at Panera. Lori, are you running that? And is that your book? Okay, what book is that? Bringing Nature Home?
Bringing Nature Home. It's a great book. It's about how everybody can bring nature to their own home and what individuals can do in their own backyard to help save our planet.
All right, so if you're interested in that, stick around and talk to Lori after. And then Cuisine and Conversation, which talking and eating, right? Green Lantern Pizza, April 6th, 6:30 p.m. Do you have to book ahead to attend these events?
You should notify either on Meetup or on Facebook so we can get a count.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And then our next Sunday Assembly will be April 14th. It's a day of service. It's part of our Help Often. In fact, I think, Audrey, this is a good time to talk about what Helping Often and Health Week and whatever you have to bring to that. Okay, and please introduce yourself.
I will. I am Audrey Pleasant. Can you all hear me? Okay. I'm Audrey Pleasant. I am a member of this temple and I am currently the chair of the Social Justice Committee. So this is one of our projects. And the first thing I want to do, I think, is the time on that is I need to correct that. The April 14th Day of Service and Celebration, which is what I'm talking about, starts at noon and goes till 3 o'clock. And that's different than what was written there. So that will be the time. But I'm going to give you a handout, a flyer, which has that information. So I am very pleased that you allowed me to be here today. This has been a wonderful event. I love that talk. It was just great. I want to talk to you more. And everything is, I'm so impressed. So that it was a delight and an honor to be with you today. We do many projects in the Social Justice Committee, and we would be delighted to have your participation. We like to partner, and partnering with you with this event and many others would be fantastic. First of all, of course, I want to invite you, your family, your friends, your neighbors to come to our day of service and celebration. Definitely that includes kids. This is a family-friendly event. And if you're not able to come to the whole event, I know people have busy schedules, you can come to the park that's convenient for you. It's going to be a little bit like a open house, a little bit like that. There will be a kids special talk just for kids and a special activity. So we love to have kids. Please bring them. We are having that day, and I will give you the flyer that will tell you that. I just lost my event. Here we go. The flyer that I will give you lists what the program will be. It will start with a light lunch to which everyone is invited, and while you're eating that lunch, there will be talks right here in this room. The first one will be by a representative from the Noah Soup Kitchen, and she will talk for about 10 minutes, including in her talk about how homelessness affects your mentally, the brain functioning actually. Then each of the other organizations we have who are participating in this will each talk for 3 minutes. They only have to talk for 3 minutes because they're setting up a table which we will provide with all kinds of displays of their information, and then they will be available to have one-to-one conversations with people for that. The organizations we're having are ones that we support. They include NOAA, Alternatives for Girls, Freedom House, CARES, and the Hearing Loss Association, and Oakland County Foster Closet. I'm not going to tell you about them because that's what you'll learn when you come on that day. So that's a main purpose. After the talks and lunch, there will be some people will be doing our lunch making assembly line. And if you want to participate in that, you will have to RSVP to me, and I have my paper and pencil there, so you can tell me today would be a very good time. You have to RSVP just so that we're sure we have enough jobs for people. We don't want anyone feeling bored. We're making lunches for Noah Soup Kitchen. We're making them for 2 days. And we've done this is a tradition, we've done this for several years. And we make them on that Sunday afternoon, and somebody delivers them on Monday morning. We need volunteers for that. So now I'm going to tell you ways in which you can help often, the help that you can provide for that. First of all, of course, you can volunteer to be on the assembly line. We need donations for lunch. We're providing the main course, which is going to be nachos, but we need desserts and fruit to go along with that. And that can be either homemade or bought. So that's one thing we need help with. We're going to give each of the organizations a pack of things that they want. We've been collecting once every week. We've had a donation item. I know I saw a sign out there that some of you, that you've been bringing some things. I greatly appreciate that. I have a list with me, half the sheets over there, which I will pass out, which list all the things that they've requested. Each organization was asked to give us the 3 most important things that they need. So any of those, donations of any of those would be very appreciative. And that's one of the things we'll be doing, we'll be giving them those donations at that time. Then I'm told that people here have offered to help with the setup and the cleanup. And I'm thrilled to pieces that is going to happen. So again, I have my paper and pencil, and you may tell me would be great to do it today, get it over with. Another thing we need you to bring is cardboard boxes, medium and large sizes. We use them to deliver the lunches to Noah Soup Kitchen, which is in downtown Detroit, 35 East Adams to be exact. So we need people for that. And if anyone actually wants to go on Monday or on Tuesday to help serve and be more immersed in the experience, that would be fine as well. We may have some other art activities. I believe Joe mentioned gardening perhaps, and we will let you know. I will give updates in the temple's weekly newsletter, but Austin and Joe received that, and I'll ask them to pass along any information about that. I think that's it. I think that's the main things. So we want donations of desserts and fruit, of the things on that list, cardboard boxes, and that's it. Any questions?
How many more boxes do you need? I brought 4.
Lots. We're putting all, we're using that to carry things there. We were using our own bins, but we found that they didn't all come back home. It was getting a little expensive, so we're doing cardboard boxes.
Okay, so I can get more from the Red Cross anytime.
Yeah, and if you can fold them too, so that, when we store them, they're, they say.
No, but I can't do that.
Well, we can do that. Okay. Really just. So we're so glad to have you, to partner with you, and we hope you'll partner not only with this event, but many others. We have several others in the offing, and afterwards I can tell you about some of those as well. Questions? No?
Yeah, I do have another question. You said something about nachos? What's that?
That's lunch things. Our wonderful caterer, Julie Claire, is making them, and they can be either eaten like nachos, or the ingredients can be made into a salad. And there'll be a choice. People can go around, we'll have different things, and people can put in their lunch what they want.
Okay, this is for the helpers then?
This is for the helpers, yes. Yes, the lunch making ingredients, we will have those here and set them out, and there will be people making sandwiches. Actually, the first day, we're going to have a hot lunch with Julie's help, so that would be exciting. But we're going to give them sandwiches that they can take home and eat for dinner, so they're going to get 2 meals on the first day from us.
So the dessert need are not for the workers that day?
The desserts and the fruit I'm asking are for the attendees, the people who come to it. If we have anything extra, we want a lot, because if we have anything extra, we will send them with it. They'll use as many as we can. No nuts or difficult things to eat, because it's very sad, but these homeless people don't go to the dentist very often, and cannot chew very well usually, so. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're about rounding the bases here. We have one more thing to talk about. And before, I'm going to call up Steve to talk about fundraising and donations. I just have, if you want to come up, but I just have one thing to say about fundraising, donations, volunteer time. In 2023, we had 850 hours spent on Sunday assembly meetings, volunteer activities, things like that. 850 hours. And of those 850 hours, 750 of those hours were contributed by our leadership team, the 5 board members that we have. 90% of our volunteer time was done by a small group of people. And it's very similar in our fundraising. We received $5,300 in donations in 2023. And of those $5,300, $4,700 were from leadership and $600 were from membership. So it's a very small group of people that is providing a tremendous benefit for all of us. And you may not be aware of this disproportion in amount of time and money contributed, but I just wanted to make you aware of it, because I think when we see these statistics for 2024, we like it to look a bit different than that. We want to call on our membership, our congregation, who we are, to participate in all that. And if you'd like to know how to donate, I think maybe to advance the slide for you.
No, it's okay. I'm going to keep that up for a second there, and then I think Joe's got it for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks so much,
And
Marty.
then you're gonna break us for
Yeah.
a moment of brisket?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so before you, thanks Marty for mentioning that. It's yeah, leadership does a lot behind the scenes, which is awesome. And now that I get to be part of the membership, I see how the sausage is made behind the scenes, and it's actually pretty fun. And we have increased our number of leadership positions to 8. I think we're at 8 now, right, for board members? Yeah, so we're at 8 now. So 5 last year and 8 this year. So hopefully we can make something more happen. So the Help Often week, you can't see really the week there because it kind of blends into the background, but Sunday Assembly USA has decided that we're going to have our very first Help Often week. And it actually is going to be from the 12th of April to the 21st. So the day of service actually falls right on that first weekend, which is awesome. So it takes a little bit of the planning and prep away from us. Because we already have something there to do. But if anyone can think of anything else that we can do during that week to show Sunday Assembly Detroit as a leader in helping often, anything you can think of, anything like that, we can bring it up during the committee meeting that's happening during the food. And anytime that you have an idea or something like that, just email one of us. It's usually just our name at sundayassemblydetroit.org. So Steve or Joe or Austin or Anthony, anybody that if you have an idea, just pass it on to one of us and we'll be able to hopefully make that happen. So how to donate? Okay, so the PayPal membership. So I'm actually a PayPal member. So I donate $10 a month, but it's actually $72 for me, Canadian. It's not that bad. But yeah, no, it's too bad because my $10 doesn't go too far, so I have to bump it up to your $10. So anyway, so you can always make this a monthly donation if you click off the tab there. There's always cash donations allowed. We always collect those at the front door. However, you won't be able to collect those claim them on your taxes, right? Because it's just kind of money that we funnel through laundering and all that. I mean, what? That doesn't happen. And then, you can via pledge on our meetup page. So the meetup and all these things cost money and fees and stuff like that. So, if you can make a pledge on there, it's awesome. And pledging your firstborn is always, a good thing that cults do. Not a cult.
You think you want?
Sure. And I just want to say thank you so much to the donors, because without you, we wouldn't be here. And like Marty said, there's a big expense, like a big overhead of what we need to do to accomplish being here on a Sunday, being there for cuisine and conversations, being there for wine with Ted, being there for all those things. And there is a little bit of a cost associated with everything, the meetup page, and just every little bit helps. If you can, $5, $2 a month, whatever you can do, it definitely goes a long way, and it definitely keeps you guys here and in the temple and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for all the donations. Yeah, you have a question?
I do have a question. I have made a suggestion in the past that Wine with Ted isn't meaningful to me because I don't know what the program is going to be.
Right.
To drive a long way. Is there been any plan on that, or you just don't know on any given night what Ted's going to show?
We're in the planning process of all this. It's going to be like reinvented. So that's something that we're going to be doing with our committee meetings in the future, is reinventing all that stuff. And we're going to come out with the programming and everything ahead of time, and then you'll be able to see that on hopefully this Facebook page and our meetup and things like that. Okay, if you can just advance the slide there. So food time, and so I put on their brisket to shut me up because since New Year's, which I wasn't able to be here for, they had a Kwanzaa celebration, and I wasn't able to be there for the brisket, so I've been bugging Anthony every time. And during the meeting, I think Joe or somebody asked, like, what's going to be for the lunch? And I was like, brisket! And Anthony's like, brisket to shut Steve up! So that's the way it is today. So we are going to have some brisket. So if anyone has anything else that they'd like to share, or any concerns or anything like that you're having, yes?
Can I want to be able to pass these out?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Get them on your way.
They're only 25 cents a piece. So yeah, no, we're good to go to eat. If nobody has any concerns or questions or anything, then we are concluding the assembly for today.
All right.
Thanks to Marty for hosting today. He did an excellent job. It was his first time hosting, and I think maybe we'll consider having him back on. Maybe. Yeah, no, you did a great job. So yeah, thanks so much to everyone for being here, and let's eat.